And with that, we've arrived at the final panel of the evening. After seeing a glimpse into what technology is already doing today, we're going to reflect next on, again, the resources that will be required in order to enable this future. That includes reflecting on things like, what is the next generation of talent going to look like? How do businesses prepare in order to be ready for whatever this future is going to look like? And what role will businesses play in shaping that future going forward? Who are the relevant stakeholders involved in these discussions, etc.? So we're going to be zooming in on talent, tools, and trust, powering an AI-enabled economy. Joining me on stage in a second is once again our moderator, Mike Butcher, founder and editor at Pathfounders. His panelists include Yariv Adan, general partner at Ellipsis Venture, Professor Dr. Anna Zeiter, CEO of W Social, and Marc Stampfli, business director for Switzerland at NVIDIA. Let's give them a very warm welcome as they take to the stage.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Hi, everybody. Mike Butcher from Pathfounders again, and thank you very much for staying with us. And I hope you'll stay with us for a drink afterwards, and so we can carry on the conversation. This is actually really great to be on this panel because we've got some breaking news. W Social is a new startup. Social media startup out of Europe. Now, you don't say that very often, do you? No. Very exciting to have you, Professor Dr. Anna Zeiter, who's the CEO of W Social. We're going to get to that in a second, and we're going to hear all about it. But we're obviously also joined by Yariv from Ellipsis Venture and Marc from NVIDIA. I think the issue here is that, well, I mean, we can all agree that there's a lot of talent out there, a lot of talent in Europe, and enormous amounts of talent flooding into AI, especially right now, because it's just such the hottest space in tech right now, apart from defense, which is a whole other story. So what can we sort of where can we get to right now? What are we missing? So especially in terms of Europe, what are we structurally missing? We've got plenty of capital, but perhaps not at the late stage. We don't have the platforms. We still don't have the platform plays. Hopefully you'll change that. And we definitely have the ambition, that's for sure, right? So do you notice any perennial gaps? I noticed, for instance, the EU Commission has backed a new 28th regime idea, like a sort of Delaware company structure for Europe. Do you think that will move the needle?
No, I actually think that first ambition is actually not great.
Right.
I think that many times we meet with very good teams, but DACH is the universe. Mm-hmm. And I think you need to be much more ambitious than that if you want to be a global player, global leader. And many times the ambition comes from a place of comfort, that I want to launch where I am rather than I want to win the world. I think that it's much harder to raise money for especially early stage startups in Europe than in the US. So if you are a strong team in the US and you have a good idea, the VC believes in you and gives you a large ticket. In Europe, they start asking you, show us your business model for the next 7 years, and it's much smaller tickets. And as European, you're disadvantaged to get for many of them into the US VC. But the local VCs are much more conservative and smaller. So if you want to raise a lot or move fast, you are a disadvantage, and I think we need to fix that. Defense is an example, but I think the best thing the governments can do to help startups is not grants or support or whatever. I actually think that's not great incentives, but actually be customers. For a startup to sell to a US government, it's easier, and these are huge customers, and they can actually help them. In Europe, it's so hard. So I think these are some structural...
Certainly, no, I agree with you. And certainly Israel, smaller countries like Israel, Estonia, always think internationally with their startups? Marc?
Yeah, you said we have the finance, but actually I think we have two things missing. I would agree we have the talents, right? I speak maybe more for Switzerland, where I know, okay, they have the AI talents to give you an idea for that, but there's not enough funding. So definitely financing and funding is one part is missing.
Did you say funding or founding?
Funding, finance.
Okay, yeah, finance.
Finance, investments, let's say that like that. Yeah. And the second thing that we were still missing is to have enough so-called AI factories, enough compute. If you don't have that in a large scale, what the talents will do? They will go where they have it. And at the moment, it's, of course, more in US and other areas.
What about...
I would like to add, I mean, I agree with that, what you said. I would like to add 2 points. I mean, we cannot forget that, for example, the US is one big market. And Europe consists, if we include Switzerland, UK, other broader European countries, it's more than 30 markets. So that means if you want to launch a product or a social media platform or something in Europe, you need to, make sure that you translate everything into the different languages, that you need to deal with the legal regimes and regulations. Coming to my second point, of course, Europe is highly regulated, and especially the AI Act is one of the most complicated laws I've ever read. It took me a couple of days to fully understand it, and I think I haven't even understand it yet. So, and I mean, if I'm as a professional in that space have, difficulties to capture the whole law, I mean, how can a startup do that? Or how can, people do that who are working on that on the sides? So I think Europe is heavily regulated, and it consists not only of one market, but actually 30.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, there are exceptions to this rule. Lovable's coming out of Stockholm. There's a boom of AI startups coming out of Sweden right now. So they're quite clearly founders are choosing to stay in those countries. Perhaps they might go somewhere else later on, but at least they're choosing to start. So, it's not all bad, I guess, at this point.
No, it's not at all, by the way, right? Like, we are a VC and we're like putting our money where our mouth is. We are actually investing in Europe because actually, the upside is you have outstanding teams, and especially in science and industry, where we think these are defensible domains, that's a strength in Europe, but they're actually very cheap. Like, if you look at the same team in Germany versus if you put them in San Francisco, in Germany, you can get them between 10 to 20 million at the seed stage. In the US, they will be 40 million or more. So there is actually a lot of hidden gems. I think like the Lovables are exactly the companies, and this is a little bit so, my accent tells it. I started in the 90s in the Israeli startup ecosystem. Back then, on day one, we had engineering in Israel and product and go-to-market in the US. Afterwards, product also moved to Israel. I think the success stories like, 11 Labs, Black Forest, Stable Diffusion, Lovable, all are in Europe talent, the good DNA, but they went global. And I think that's the winning recipe.
Right, okay.
We also see, since you're speaking about Swedish investors, we also see more and more investors investing in Europe in the long term. So because, Europe, many European countries, most of them are still stable democracies. And I think this is a factor. And it's beautiful to live here. And on purpose, I brought this amazing cap, Make Europe Great Again. I'm very much in favor of that. So I believe in Europe. And there are obstacles. But I think there are many great reasons. We have, as you said, amazing universities here. And with all these geopolitical changes, we actually see that it's not so attractive anymore to study at the elite universities in the US. So I know that some of them have actually difficulties to attract European students. So we see that more European students stay in Europe and, go to elite universities in Europe, which is great. So we have the talent. And we see more investors investing long-term in Europe.
Yeah. I would agree on innovation, right? We innovate here, we innovate in Europe, we innovate in Switzerland. But the thing is, most of the time we don't scale it. So we're not bringing it from a smaller market, from really the idea to innovation, which works, and make it big. I think that's what we're lacking a little bit.
Speaking of scaling, though, although there are less foundational models in Europe, there are obviously startups who are mixing models at the application layer and able to, and then more than AI wrappers, there's definitely proper IP there. But so do you feel that Europe has really got more opportunity at the application layer? And also, it's often highly, close to vertical industries like in Germany and auto manufacturing or whatever it is.
I mean, nowadays you have open source models, right? You can do a lot with that. You literally democratize a little bit AI. So, and if you go one step further, even there is now Apertus, if you heard about that. It's really a completely transparent model. You know what is trained on, how it's trained on. It's all completely transparent. It's also open source. So there are the tools available to do something out of that. But you need to take it and scale it. You need to add it, let's say, industry-specific or domain-specific knowledge. And that's some work that needs to be done.
I'm not a huge fan of many of the application layer, not to overgeneralize. Yeah, I think the value capture and defensibility is questionable. But we need to remember that actually when you're talking about foundational models, it's not necessarily large language models. We invested in a company that had a very successful second round with A16Z and Index that created the foundational model for audio and music, but they managed to do it in such data efficiency because they are super good at their domain, that they could actually acquire all the data so they don't have any problem of copyrights. And now suddenly that's a very big advantage for certain places. We invested in another company that is working on reinforcement learning models for optimizing throughput and energy consumption in manufacturing. We invested in another one that does protein for the... So I think there is definitely foundational model. By the way, so I didn't say, but I spent 20 years at Google before becoming an investor. The world model, Genie, that Google built is actually developed in Zurich. The lead is in Zurich. And also the image model. So actually there is a lot of additional opportunities for modalities that are not language and that are very technical and also data related to industries that I think Europe can flourish and is flourishing.
Well, now, Anna, you've let's talk a little bit about W Social. So you were eBay's chief privacy officer?
I still am, technically, for the next 12 days. At the end of January, yeah.
Okay. Do they know?
Yes, they know.
Okay. So I'd love to hear let's tell everybody what you've been working on. You've started a new startup called W Social, which is going to be a social media. Over to you. Tell us what's happening.
So there's a team and investors, tech investors, mostly tech investors from Sweden. And they have been working already since last year on a new social media platform built, governed, hosted out of Europe. And the name is, we revealed that yesterday in a pre-launch event, W. So it stands for the pronoun we, because we find that we is very inclusive. It also stands for the world, because the ambition is that this shall be a global platform, built, run and governed out of Europe. And it also stands for the two V's, which stand for values and verification. Because coming more to the tech and AI related part, what we try to do is to make sure that the users on our platform are humans, real humans, because this is what we're seeing on some of the other competitors in the East and in the West, that more and more AI bots are dominating the dialogue. And this is something we would like to change, not by solving weird puzzle pieces or counting zebra crossings and traffic lights, but by proper human verification tools. And we see that this could be a competitive advantage, because when you join, then hopefully end of this year, when we go do the global launch, so we do a beta launch in a couple of weeks for a smaller group, and then we phase that in over the year. So the advantage will be that when you interact with other users on our platform, that you have a high likelihood that these people are also humans. And I feel in times of global geopolitical crises, disruption, we feel that we need to bring people more together and that we have true human dialogue. So speaking of AI, what is important here? On the one hand, AI is a threat, because what we're currently seeing on the competitor platforms is that the conversations are more and more AI driven. Either you don't know if you're chatting with an AI bot, or sometimes the comments are even AI generated or proposed. Excuse me. ask another question.
It's okay. Yeah, I know that you've been running around Davos launching the company.
I talked to too many investors and journalists over the last days. Jokes aside, so AI is not only a threat. AI is also a benefit. Because we will be using AI to do, of course, a lot of checking. And there's also the idea to verify experts. Because what we also want to do on the website is we want to promote more experts. And then we say, if someone is saying, I'm an ETH AI professor, that we can check that in the background with AI and say, yeah, this person is really an AI professor at ETH. This is an expert in that field. Because I think what's important in these times of fake news and disinformation is trust. We want to know with whom we are communicating, and we want to know if this is a true expert or if this is an AI bot expert or whatever. And we try to mitigate the risk of AI also with AI and try to bring the human element to that. And the bonus on top of that is that the data will be hosted in Europe on actually truly European servers owned by European companies. And this is something we would like to add on top because sovereignty, true tech sovereignty is something I think very important these days.
Okay, great. Just a couple of quick questions. It's on the ATT protocol,
yes, correct.
Which is the same protocol as
yes, Blue Sky. And the benefit is that, so we thought very heavily about, how can we make sure that we crack the network effect or how can we leverage the network effect? Because we've seen over the last couple of years many social media efforts in Europe that started and then died out. And most of them, they really started from scratch and then they slowly are growing, but they cannot take this hockey stick exponential growth effect. What we try to do is we try to build everything on this open source AT protocol. Blue Sky is on the same protocol. Blue Sky, maybe some of you know Blue Sky, they have already 40 million users, 20 million users in the US and 20 million users outside of the US, which is actually pretty cool. So from day one, our users will be able to connect with them because it's on the same AT protocol. So that means we are not starting from scratch. We're actually leveraging the network effect and connect with them and actually grow together. But the unique selling point on our platform will be twofold for now. More kind of functionalities will be coming, that our data will be hosted in Europe on European servers owned by European companies, and that we verify humans as humans.
Right. Now, without being too critical, obviously.
Okay, bring it on. I heard a lot.
Let's hear Yariv and Marc. What do you think about, because there have been other attempts, not just in Europe, but to launch other social media platforms, and that haven't been scaled so well.
Last year, he's on our advisory board. He's my biggest critic.
Well, he's invested interest. Well, tell us why you're backing this then.
So I think like everyone, as the product guy for many years, I always look at the problem. And I think everyone agrees that there is today, people are unhappy with the social networks today. Like I said, it's dividing more than it is connecting people, and it is actually creating more questioning on the truth and the value of information rather than actually increasing the value of the information through distribution. So I think the problem exists, and it's a very large problem. So it's interesting, and we also know how to monetize. There already existing monetization there. Over the last 25 years, we also learned a lot of things. And I think like if they're smart and they come and say, okay, let's not try to recreate the old thing again with with small adaptation, but actually rethink if social would come today with the power of AI, with knowing the multimodality, with knowing how people interact. I think you can actually create something that is much better and much more useful and caters to the problem and need for all the people, something that is very, very hard for the existing players that have a more dead baggage and value. So right. This is like why I'm excited. I think they have an amazing CEO, they have an amazing initial investors, and they need to make sure that they build a superstar product team. I think that's key.
Very, very, very cool. And let's be optimistic, and let's go. Let's be Silicon Valley mindset and go for it. And let's wish you all success.
I'm super proud that in Europe it's a woman leading it. I'm like guys in the US. Yeah.
Thank you, Yariv. And on top of that, I lived in Silicon Valley for my studies at Stanford and also to work a bit at eBay. So I know the mentality, and this is also what I like to import from there because, I mean, I worked more than 11 years for a Silicon Valley tech company, and they're fast-paced, they're like very pragmatic, let's get it done. And I think this is also what I can bring to the table. Not only the European identity and all my knowledge about how can we set up data transfers and stuff, but also the mentality of let's get it done and let's make it work and be very business-minded.
Right, yeah. And it's so interesting that you're also going to have an AI component inside it. And obviously we know that NVIDIA's so central to that economy right now.
You also want me on my
Let me re-add something here to that, right? You're talking about social and human. That's a cool thing, to be honest. And I think that's good. I think we should know that when humans communicate to humans.
Yep.
But on top of that, I believe we go to a world where AI agents talk to AI agents.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
So I probably will have very soon my AI agent and he does my stuff. I want to do him to do, right? And he talks to another AI agent. This is not a topic. It's just you should know that it's the AI agent. And I'm more than happy to, when I know that's a human, that I speak to a human.
Yeah.
But the other world, I think, is evolving too as well.
Yeah.
Right?
I absolutely agree. And I think both worlds are good and both worlds should be there, especially for, I don't know, travel booking. If one agent's talking to another, book me the full, whatever, 4 weeks safari tour or whatever. So I think that's great, but it needs to be transparent. That's my point. And when we have social interaction, and this is also the trend that I'm seeing in Silicon Valley right now, people want true human interaction again. Big companies like Netflix and Airbnb, they're betting again, they're placing their bets on more live interaction, more human interaction. So this is also what we're seeing on eBay. Like eBay Live is like growing because people want to have these live events, these human interaction. But when it's transparent, like some events might be good for humans, but some like booking the travel that's kind of standard work can be done by agents where no human needs to be involved.
Let me add again. I mean, that's as I said, nothing against that. That you're like human. And also, if you speak to a doctor, to be honest, I want to speak to the doctor directly, to a human. But I also want that kind of doctor is actually using AI on the back end and then just relying on his own. That's one. The second thing is, of course, I want to speak to a human when I, get for the travel and so on. But doing the work, we go now in a world where you just give your AI agent a mission. You give a task what it needs to do. You don't even say how it needs to do. You say, okay, I want to go to travel somewhere. I have 7 days. You can fly. That's fine. But it needs to be warm. Please make me some offers. Go that. And he goes out there and he looks at everything and comes back and gives you an offer. Then in the end, you choose what you want. And this same AI agent goes afterwards and books the travel for you and you get the ticket and everything. So that work, to be honest, I want to be done. I want it to have it done by an agent. It needs to be transparent, I agree. But that's something I really want to be done by an agent.
Well, this is the thing is that, part of this discussion is about trust as well. And you mentioned your social network will be concentrating on human-to-human interaction. And did we see Jack Dorsey the other day say that he wanted to relaunch Vine with only humans on it and no AI slop? So that's clearly you're on trend there. And, I see now that some startups are trying to get facial recognition, say, you are a human, okay, you can go to this website or whatever. And, trust was also a part of the blockchain ecosystem for very often. Yet it still hasn't actually been incorporated in a lot of models at the moment. Do you think that that conversation between Web3 and AI foundation models and startups is ever going to happen, or is it dead in the water?
I actually think it's coming. I have a super smart, I have a very smart friend from the crypto side. He's the GP of a cyber fund. We actually talk a lot because when I think about the future stack, how does technology look like? I think it's a much simpler stack where me as a business or a person, whatever, I'm just going to say, I want X. And X can be an ongoing, evergreen, very complex, very simple thing. Correct. Some model now goes and breaks that X. Okay, in order to achieve X, based on your preferences, your budget, whether you care about quality, how long, do you want proof of, whatever, and breaks it to its little pieces. Then it goes and does a real-time bidding to agents all over the world. The agents say, hey, I can do that. Here is a proof that I can do that. And then you do the transaction. Now you need a lot of trust of proof that the agent can actually do it, that there is a contract that you sign. And actually blockchain is the perfect technology to facilitate all of that. That, whether it is to prove the identity, to prove that the contract, to hold the money until it is done, to verify that actually the code does what it's supposed to do, and all of that. So I actually think that, and I think this will be the stack of tomorrow, and the way to scale agents, and the whole way to identify, to do identity verification, contracts, payment, all of these things already exist in the blockchain world, and I think it's going to be able to
coins as well.
Just to say here, to add, I mean, it can be blockchain, but it doesn't have to be blockchain.
Yeah.
And if it's just about authentication and it's about encryption and so on, and authorization and so on, this can be solved in ways how it has been in the past. I mean, in computer science, right? It not necessarily needs to be blockchain.
Yeah.
There are many other options as well.
But I think the distribution factor actually here is a very huge. The fact that it distributes, not centralized, not a single player, but everyone does it. The ledger actually has a lot of practical advantages.
It's interesting. It's interesting, isn't it, how Mark Zuckerberg has said that he wants to own personal AI, and I presume that means an AI that kind of knows everything about you, knows your friends, your family, what your preferences are, in the same way that Facebook has become kind of one big targeting model, and figuring out, what your preferences are so it can target you with adverts. Do we think that his strategic choice to be involved in personal AI, and also in fact, he said, we want people to have AI friends as well, so artificial AIs. Do you think that that's a strategic mistake? Because you're obviously leaning into verified human interaction, which I think actually kind of people do like, don't they?
I think when he speaks about personal AI,
yeah,
I mean, he wants to have his own brain, but I'm pretty sure he wants to have it controlled.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the point where I want to go. Like when I started, I say, okay, if you want to do that, you need to have your own model, and you need to control this model. And currently we can only do this with open source models, and then you can add as much as information, personal data as you wish to it, but you need to be able to control that model.
Two things I would like to add here. I think Meta's I assume goal is to collect as much data as possible, to then use the data for different purposes, to monetize it. My goal is not necessarily to collect as much data as possible, because the more data you have as a company, the higher is the risk that you have a data breach and so on and so forth. We are not interested. I am personally not interested to collect the data of my users. I want to have as little data as possible to run the platform. And a couple of examples when we set up, so we are building right now this identification app. So there will be second W social and then the W identification app, through which users can register and identify themselves as humans. I'm not interested in this data. I don't want to have the biometric information. I don't want to have the passport information and so on. So this will be kept with the third party and deleted as soon as possible. I'm not interested in this information. This is a difference. I only want to have as little data as possible to run the platform. Second, Meta's data is mostly hosted in the US. Our data will be hosted in Europe, which is a difference, especially for European users.
Do you think users will care?
Yes. So, I mean, I care, and we see a lot of momentum, especially with geopolitical changes. Many people in Europe speak about tech sovereignty, and I would personally have not a good gut feeling if Mark Zuckerberg has, or Meta has, a copy of a personal AI agent that knows all my messages and all my thoughts and whatever, hosted the data either on US servers or on European servers owned by US companies.
That's why you can have your own model. You can actually run it wherever you want. You can run it in a data center in Europe, and you can even run it on an AI workstation nowadays, right?
Yeah.
So there are ways how you deal with that nowadays.
I think there's a slightly different angle to it, and I actually think that Zach has a huge asset. When you think about personal, to me, it's about who owns the AI for the consumers. And I think this is all about distribution. And at the moment, there is like, 3 companies that have access to that. You have Google, which is the current choke point to the internet that sees all your needs and at the moment does it. You have Apple that owns you on the device. And you have Facebook that owns you on the communication, right? So everyone is on it. I think that is an amazing, and I don't think, sure, there is advantage to the data, but I just think that today, if you want to AI to change your life, I would put like in your pocket a personal doctor, like basically a family office like billionaires have, but in the pocket of everyone, because AI now can give you advice on life, on business, on legal, on financials and everything. But how do I get it into your pocket? That's very hard. And Zuckerberg just has you. You open his app so many times. Like, I don't believe how they failed yet to put like, a few really good assistants inside WhatsApp and Messenger and Instagram. And I think this is the big opportunity. And I don't think they need a lot of data. They just need to design a good product that is your advisor across these things, and the distribution already exists. And I think the fact that he bought Manus now actually finally maybe gives him someone that knows how to do good AI in his organization.
So let's give it. We've got 30 seconds-ish left. Let's do some predictions. There were some panels earlier today. That those of you who are here for the rest of the day, there were some predictions potentially about the concentration of power around AI models. Someone even said we might end up with only 4 companies in the world, which would be unusual. And so, what's your prediction? So over the next 5-10 years, I apologise, it's so tough to. But just like, let's go for make a bet. Do we feel that the historical trend and, shall we, cultural movement is towards more independence, more and more apps that look after me, that know me, that maybe are, hosted in Europe, etc., etc.? Or do you think that there will be greater concentration of power amongst the big the big platforms? Go.
I think there is going to be concentration. I don't think that the concentration is in the models or in the application layer. I think these are becoming a commodity. I think the concentration, it is large-scale compute, and that is the real thing that is really, really hard. And there is one company in the world that has the entire stack, which is Google. You have NVIDIA that is getting close to that, and you have 3 others that are building the pieces. And I think it's super hard to compete with them, and I don't see how, and that's the new currency, unfortunately.
So concentration of compute.
Yeah.
Marc?
Yeah, I think we will see a democratization of AI. The open source model, which are currently getting out, which are out there on the market, they're just getting very, very good. And everybody can pick them up, try them out, and have them run anywhere you like it.
There you go. So more and more open source.
Yeah. So we need to consider 3 things. Success in AI is determined by 3 factors: energy, computing power, and data. Whoever has that is winning the race. I think Google has high chances to win the race or to be, at the forefront. But I also think and hope that there will always be space for very specialized models and specialized applications. So I think we will see both, but definitely whoever has the 3 things, energy, computing power, and data, is a clear advantage.
Well, thank you so much for your robust contribution. Please give it up for, ladies and gentlemen, to Yariv from Ellipsis, Anna from W Social, and Marc from NVIDIA. And from me, Mike Butcher, I hope you had a great time.